Welcome, Yoav Soffer, advisor to the Vice Governor of the Israel Bank of Israel, and also he's head of the Digital Shekel Project. We had a day already talked about a lot about digital currencies, CBDCs, and also Israel has been mentioned as one of the projects which have been already kind of implemented. The floor is yours.
Hello, good afternoon. Can you hear me and see me well?
Yes, see and hear well.
Okay, excellent. Thank you very much. It's a pleasure to be here. Although virtually, I would have been much happier to be there in person, but unfortunately, circumstances did not enable that. So what I wanted to do is give the audience some kind of a quick update about the status of the Digital Shekel project here at the Bank of Israel, and also maybe give a bit of a focus about the innovation innovation and narrative that we're trying to pursue within the many directions that we're taking over the project. I'll try and share my slides. Hopefully that will work well. So what to expect from the Digital Shekel project? Let me start with a brief history for those of you who haven't been following us too closely. The Bank of Israel started studying the topic back in 2017, 2018. And in 2020, as many other central banks have been kind of ramping up their work on CBDCs, so has the Bank of Israel. And the governor decided to launch the so-called Digital Shekel Project as an action plan. There was no decision at the time, and there is no decision today to launch a Digital Shekel at the Bank of Israel. But the idea was to plan and be prepared for an if a situation comes that we believe that it's time to launch the Digital Shekel. In 2021, we've kind of arranged our thoughts in this preliminary publication on the motivations, the issues that we need to examine. And we've since published several papers, which were some analytical, some economic analysis, some about our technological explorations. And we've been publishing a lot of material on our website. By the way, for those who are interested, I'll go back to the introductory slide. If you can quickly scan the barcode, all the information about the Digital Shekel project is on our website, and we try to be as transparent as we can. Along the life of the project, we were very lucky to do some technological projects with colleagues and other central banks under the umbrella of the BIS Innovation Hub, which was, I think, a very important for our learning process, and it was very useful for us to share thoughts and activities with other central banks. But at some point, our steering committee had decided that we have done enough of kind of exploration and thinking and research, and they wanted us to get a bit more practical. And we began working on what we called a preliminary design document. Although still within those years, we were able to do what we call the Digital Shekel Challenge, where we actually implemented Project Rosalind that was implemented by the BIS and the Bank of England back in 2022. We completely copied their model with their permission and support, of course. And I'll speak a bit later about what we have learned from that project. Anyway, by the end of 24, we had completed, and in the beginning of last year, we had published what we call the preliminary design document for that Digital Shekel system. And this document, which once again is available on our website, actually defines a kind of our high-level vision of what the Digital Shekel should be able to do, and also gets into some a bit more low-level technicalities in terms of user journeys, the architecture, and some key policy and regulatory considerations. The document speaks about the two-tier model, which I'll describe more thoroughly in a minute, where PSPs actually distribute the Digital Shekel to the population, to the end users. And there's also all sorts of other types of system participants that have an important role. And we also laid out, I think for the first time, maybe I'll say even in history, the concept of a multi-purpose CBDC, a CBDC that can serve for both retail and wholesale purposes. If I heard John correctly towards the end of his talk, he was a bit skeptical about the possibility of a payment system to cater to all sorts of use cases. If I understand you correctly, John, I'll speak in a minute about why we think that it makes sense. So our design actually, the first thing, maybe the most important thing that it does is it sets the ground on what exactly is the digital shekel. And in this audience, most people are probably familiar with this chart or a type of it. We all know that if we think about those three attributes of money, so there's all sorts of types of money that each only kind of cater to attributes. So cash is central bank money, but it is only physical, it's not digital. Accounts that we have with our banks, so our payment accounts are digital and they're available to all of us, but they are not a liability of the central bank. And reserves that banks have with central bank are digital. They are central bank liability, therefore the safest type of money in the economy, but they're not available to the general public. So if we decide to issue a retail CBDC, what it means is that regardless of the technology right now and regardless of the architecture, what it would mean is that we would be offering central bank money in digital form to anyone in the economy. And I'll speak in a few minutes about what I mean by anyone in the economy. This would actually ensure access and usability of central bank money to, once again, everyone in the economy. And this is actually the one thing that only a CBDC can do, okay? If you can argue whether or not you need the CBDC, but if you are among those in the profession who believe that it's important to maintain access of the whole economy to central bank money in the future, then you need to issue a CBDC. Because it's not that we will stop issuing cash. I don't foresee that in the foreseeable future or even any further. And I'm not aware of any central bank that has decided to stop issuing cash. But cash is becoming less and less usable in our economic lives, and we are all familiar with that. And I don't need to explain that in this audience. And that could actually as I say here, I think there's a lot of disagreement about this argument in the profession. But to the extent it's right that the decline in the use of cash could harm the principle of uniformity of money, which is very important for the functionality of money. It may risk financial stability because we would be losing the monetary anchor that central bank money is today among the all agents in the economy. And this is also very important in our case. It may erode competition because cash exerts some kind of competitive pressure on the private sector entities within payments today. And if cash disappears, then we are losing this competitive pressure. So these could be kind of reasons why it may be important to issue a retail CBDC to the extent that you think that these arguments may be correct and that these mechanisms may actually work as we see cash declining. We know that they have worked in the past in the era of private money in the United States and in the UK and in other places. And we may not want to take the risk that some in the future will wake up without a monetary anchor in the economy. Our design document speaks about the ecosystem of the digital shekel. And as I mentioned earlier, we have the end users, merchants, individuals. We also think that the government is a very important end user in the CBDC system because the government is the largest merchant in the economy. Everybody makes payments to the government. Many people, if not everybody, receive payments from the government, whether in salary or in a transfer or whatever. And if the government plays a role, then it would be very useful towards creating acceptance of the digital shekel. So end users cannot interact directly with the backend at the central bank. We're all familiar with this concept of a two-tier system where you have system participants that sit between the end users and the central bank and actually offer the access, the technological access to the backend. So we speak about PSPs, which in our thinking do not necessarily need to be the existing commercial banks. They could be all sorts of entities that they could be fintech companies. They could even be retailers, big merchants, civil society and entities, and etc. that would be operating under a smaller, a lighter regulation than that exists on banks today, because they do not actually hold the funds and they do not carry the financial risk that comes with holding people's funds. And of course, there would be the FIs, the entities that would need to actually these are mainly the existing commercial banks that would need to allow us to convert our commercial bank money to CBDC, to digital shekels. We also foresee a role for what we call ASPs, additional service providers. The Bank of England uses the terminology of ESIPs for those entities that do not necessarily open wallets for end users and do not necessarily KYC them, but operate on the back end for all sorts of niche use cases that we would speak about in a few minutes. I can skip this one. I think I just spoke about this. Going back to thinking about, as we said, what the digital shekel is, so a retail CBDC, but as we all know, today we have reserves, as we said earlier, and reserves actually financially sit at the same place as what many people call wholesale CBDC, right? So what are we thinking about wholesale CBDC? We're actually thinking about taking reserves that already exist today and expressing them in some kind of other technological feature, perhaps on DLT or anything of the like, that would actually cater to the needs of financial institutions and not necessarily of retail end users. So we at the Digital Shekel Project actually think that since we already have reserves today, it may be kind of not very efficient in the future to have retail CBDC reserves and wholesale CBDC. And therefore, we have laid down the concept of what we call a multi-purpose CBDC. So if we think that today there's actually two types of central bank money, as we explained, the retail entities in the economy use cash, the wholesale entities operate on the RTGS. When we launch, if and when we launch a digital shekel in the future, we don't see a reason why financial entities would not be able to hold it, use it, use it for all sorts of advanced use cases that could develop. They would need to hold it anyway because they would need to hold it in their wallets in order to cater for the funding necessities of their customers. And therefore, we may find ourselves in a situation in the future where we think that instead of having two types of digital central bank money, these two could actually kind of merge into one system that would be the multi-purpose digital shekel, the multi-purpose CBDC that would cater for the needs of both the financial institutions and the retail entities in the economy. So this is, I think, some kind of a special way of thinking at which we are looking, which is not very common among other central banks. Once we've published the design document, we have done a lot of work based on that in 2025. We did a very thorough cost-benefit analysis of how much it would work and what would be how much it would cost and what would be the benefits in a whole macro society level, not just for the central bank. We have preliminary results of that show that the benefits could substantially outweigh the costs of issuing a digital shekel. Once again, macroeconomically thinking, we've done a thorough technological consultation, requesting the industry to respond to our design and tell us whether their solutions could actually support our relatively ambitious design. We've been thinking about the regulatory framework for the digital shekel, and we done a bit more of a deep dive into this concept of a multi-purpose CBDC to understand more thoroughly what would a wholesale CBDC bring to the economy and whether indeed it is possible and feasible to actually cater for the needs of the wholesale use cases together with retail user and use cases in a multi-purpose CBDC. This year, we are taking this whole big design that we published, which is, some may say, is very ambitious, and we're doing some kind of prioritization. We're trying to think, if we launch the digital shekel, what would be included in the launch, what would come first, and what may need to go further. We're doing some more thorough technological experimentation based on the consultation that we did last year. And we are trying to get a bit more kind of practical. We are creating a roadmap for a possible launch. We're trying to understand what would it mean organizationally, budget-wise, and what would actually the central bank need to do in order to launch a CBDC or some version of the digital shekel, which is based on our design. what to expect in terms of the timeline. By the end of this year, we intend to submit a recommendation document to the governor, whether and if and how to launch a CBDC in the future. We will be submitting the governor with several possible alternatives, which are based on our design, and we would try to see what course the governor would need to take that. The governor would, of course, need to be the first one to make a decision on behalf of the central bank, and then there would need to be all sorts of decision-making processes within the general economy and the general public sector that would also probably need to take place. So this is our current most important milestone, end of 26, a discussion with the governor based on a thorough recommendation that we are writing based on all of the work that we've done so far that we are doing right now.
Thank you so much, Soffer. Yoav, can you hear me? Yes, I hope.
Yes.
Yoav, I would allow some questions. Maybe you can answer it, and then maybe you have planned to say something, but we have 2-3 minutes for questions. I would like to allow them.
Some time in the end for questions.
Yes,
Okay.
yes. So, any questions in the room? Is there somebody who has a question so far? I have a question. How likely is the implementation? How likely will the governor say yes?
How likely is it that the governor would say yes?
Yes, that was the question.
I hope very likely. I'm the project manager, so also obviously I have my heart and my brain kind of messed up in trying to think about this analytically. It's hard to say. I think when we began back in 2020, it looked like everyone was on this route, and all the central banks were working on it. And now we are seeing a development which I personally have foreseen in the past, and we're seeing different decisions taking place in Europe and in the United States and in other countries. So I think I don't envy the governor. I think it's a very serious decision for him. We will try to make it easier for him to decide by submitting him with all sorts of alternatives that do not necessarily have to jump all in on day one. But I wouldn't try to kind of speculate on probabilities here.
Thank you very much. Yoav Soffer directly from Israel on the Digital Shekel Project. All the best to Israel, and thank you very much for this interesting presentation.